Good afternoon and welcome to our second educational webinar focusing on outstanding treatment outcomes. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today, and thank you to everyone who joined us previously. We had some fantastic questions submitted during the webinar. I would welcome you to do so again today, and please submit them in the chat box. At the end of the session, we'll run a Q&A session, so please submit any questions. I will now pass over to Louise Taylor, who will be discussing LED parameters. Louise, over to you.
Thank you, Dale. So when we're looking to achieve significant standalone results with LED phototherapy, there are two parameters which are fundamental. The first is the wavelength specification. So this makes or breaks the success of your LED treatment. Wavelength determines the target of the light in the skin and how effectively it's absorbed. So using the wrong wavelength for the target chromophore means you'll not have the optimum absorption of the light, and therefore the results will be compromised. The wavelength and the target need to match, similar to a lock and key. All of the Dermalux LED systems use the same 3 clinically proven wavelengths, which are recognised as the industry gold standard. The second parameter is the energy delivered into the skin, which is determined by the power of the device. So this is a time-related factor. A lower power device will require a longer exposure time and more treatments than a more powerful device to achieve similar results. Now we're going to have a look at some outstanding results across a range of common skin concerns and conditions to demonstrate what can be achieved when we deliver the correct specification. So I'm going to hand over to Lee, who's going to start with some acne case studies.
Thanks, Louise. Did you know that more than 90% of the world population will suffer with some form of acne at some point in their lifetime? We know that acne can be a very complex but rewarding skin concern to treat. Not only is it important to offer the correct skin health program with professional treatment and correct home care, but also manage your client's expectation. We use a wavelength of 415 for optimum light absorption, resulting to P. acne bacteria being destroyed on the skin. We can successfully treat all types of acne with protocols to suit mild, occasional breakout to persistent, high-grade acne sufferers. The blue light will also help to calm any inflammation present and improve skin clarity. As you can see from this image, clients can often be left with scarring. If this is a pink, new scar, we can treat this when combined with red and near infrared. If the scarring is slightly older, we've seen great results where clinics have used Dermalux in conjunction with other modalities such as microneedling. Light therapy is fantastic to pre-treat prior to more aggressive treatments such as laser and chemical peels, and will also help prevent post-treatment breakout and infections. Unlike other LEDs on the market, such as masks, we can treat all areas of the body, which is great for acne, as often the back and chest can be problematic areas. There are also no age restrictions, meaning you can help younger preteen clients too. I'm going to hand you over to Louise, who's going to discuss pigmentation with you.
Thanks, Lee. So pigmentation is one of the most difficult and probably one of the most common indications we're presented with. It's the result of an inflammatory response. So the first step is the correct diagnosis. What has caused the pigmentation? Is it photodamage, hormones, medication, trauma, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation? So the type of pigmentation will determine the protocol we choose. So we can see in this photograph, this is photodamage, and we recommend delivering the combined red 633 and near infrared 830 protocol. This was 1 a week for 10 weeks. However, treatments can be at a more close succession, so 2, even 3 in a week. Red light speeds up cell turnover, so existing melanin deposits are metabolized faster. It also helps to modulate melanin synthesis to help normalize excess melanin production. The 830 nanometers helps to modulate the vessels which feed the melanin and is also clinically proven to suppress the tyrosinase enzyme. We can also see images on the body, so pigmentation can be treated for the face and the body with the Dermalux systems. So 12 treatments over a 4-week period. For hormonal, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation or phototoxic pigmentation, we recommend delivering the red 633 nanometer only to avoid delivering energy into the deeper tissue, which could potentially make the condition worse. Of course, the treatment or management of pigmentation must be supported by relevant home care, such as retinol and antioxidant, and of course a good SPF. I'm now going to hand you over to Lee to talk about rejuvenation.
Thanks, Louise. So we know that as we age, unfortunately, our cell turnover and collagen and elastin production slows down, resulting in typical signs of aging on the skin. We use 633 nanometer wavelength to energize and charge our mitochondria to stimulate collagen and elastin synthesis. Clinical evidence shows that when red 633 is combined with near infrared 830, you can achieve much quicker and superior results. As you can see from the before and after images shown, clients can expect to see benefits in fine line reduction, increased natural skin hydration, improvement in skin texture and tone, and restore optimum skin health. The great thing about red LED is it can give immediate results for skin rejuvenation and vitality. I'll hand you back over to Louise to discuss psoriasis.
Thank you, Lee. According to current studies, 125 million people worldwide suffer with psoriasis, and it's becoming an increasingly prevalent skin condition. The Dermalux LED systems are the only LED devices in the world to be medically CE certified to treat psoriasis. So psoriasis is caused by a dysfunctional immune system which triggers an inflammatory response and is often found on the body. So in these images here, we can see treatment of the hands. So a total of 8 treatments in 2 weeks. So psoriasis really responds well to close succession treatments. Light therapy from UV to sun exposure is widely accepted treatment to improve and manage the condition, but LED phototherapy offers a safe and proven alternative. This is a case study with life-changing results. This gentleman had had UV light treatment in the hospital, a course of 26 sessions, which had improved, and then the condition actually came back and was treated with the LED, with the Dermalux Tri-Wave system, just 4 treatments in 7 days, and yeah, outstanding results. I'm now going to pass you back over to Lee to talk about redness.
Thank you, Louise. Inflamed, irritated, sensitive skins can be difficult to treat with topical products or other modalities, and it really is truly important to understand the cause. As you can see from this image shown, light therapy is a fantastic treatment for those concerned, and results can be achieved in as little as 3 weeks with our Dermalux Tri-Wave device. LED is hugely anti-inflammatory, whether that be acne, rosacea, sensitized and reactive skins. And whilst we can't get rid of the cause, we can help heal and strengthen the skin, improving the overall appearance. I'll hand you over to Louise, who will discuss wound healing.
Thanks, Lee. So as we've discussed, light therapy supercharges our cells to trigger the body's natural healing and repair mechanism. So light therapy is really based on this principle. So we can see in these photographs some outstanding results in a short period of time. So 4 treatments in 8 days, using light therapy to actually speed up and accelerate our body's natural healing and repair processes. So when we experience trauma or injury, our cells release a number of chemicals that initiate an inflammatory response. So although we can't stop this process, the application of LED accelerates the wound healing. So as a combination protocol, applying LED after a treatment which has created trauma, as we can see in this photograph here, so things like laser, skin needling, or more advanced skin peels will really help to reduce and minimize any secondary effects such as hematoma, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, or bacterial infection. So one post-treatment, near infrared really help to calm and speed up the healing. Finally, is a post-surgical application to help reduce the bruising, the hematoma, and speed up the healing. We also recommend using Dermalux in advance to prepare the skin prior to more invasive and surgical procedures, so the cells are fully energized for that optimal healing process. I'm now going to finally hand you back over to Lee, who's going to talk about problematic conditions.
Thank you, Louise. Due to the anti-inflammatory and healing nature of light therapy, we can treat more advanced skin concerns such as dermatitis, eczema, and psoriasis. And as you can see from the images, again, we're not restricted to the face. We can treat all over the body. If you think about how problematic skins react in sunlight, they tend to heal and repair much quicker. Light therapy will have similar effects, but without any of the harmful UV rays. I'd now like to hand you back over to Louise and Dale, who will be happy to answer any of the incoming questions that we've had.
So I think we've had some questions come in during the webinar. So I think, Louise, do you have the first question?
I'll read them. And so can I use a sheet mask with the light? Dale, you can answer that.
Okay, so we get asked this quite a bit actually. There's nothing stopping you using the sheet mask with the light. However, you need to understand what's happening with that. So with the sheets, it acts as a light barrier. So what we actually recommend is using the sheets either pre or post treatment. And by doing so, you're actually getting the same effect with the actual light sheet mask with it. But the issue is that light is actually blocked by the mask when it's in application. So you typically lose anything between 8 to 12% per interface. So if you've got the light coming out, then it goes through the mask, that's 8 to 12% loss. And then when it then goes into the skin, you get the same loss again. So really we'd advise try to use it either before or afterwards, not during the treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know they can vary, can't they? I know there are different kinds of masks, so some are more opaque than others, but I think still it's gonna affect the treatment or the absorption of the light into the skin. So next, are there any products we should avoid with the light? So this is something that we go through in the treatment protocol manual as well, or we list all the ingredients, but generally anything with very high concentration of actives, so things like acids and also vitamin A, only because of any sort of potential deactivation of the light. So they can be used around them, so you can use peels and then sort of neutralize and then have the light. But if you're putting topical products on, it's better just to use things like hyaluronic acid or just things that haven't got too high levels of actives in them. And just when you're putting them onto the skin, just make sure that they're massaged in well. So if you're using hyaluronic acid, because it's quite a large molecule, just make sure that it's massaged in. Otherwise what you'll do is you'll end up with a sort of a film of the product on the skin, which might have a sort of a drying effect, and then you get that sort of tightness. So generally any sort of serums with less concentration of actives. How do I treat pigmentation with darker skin? So again, I know this is a question that we're getting more and more because it can be tricky. So the protocol we would use would be similar to the protocol for treating post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, hormonal pigmentation. So we would just advise the red light as a post-treatment application. So if you're doing it in combination, so you're doing a treatment, maybe a peel, and then you're adding the light, just use the red light. So you should just follow the protocols in the manual or on the protocol chart with your device. Okay, next question. So I have an LED device with 470 nanometers. How is this different to Dermalux Blue?
Okay, there's a lot of devices out there with a whole range of different wavelengths, and they all claim to be blue. Now, if you work in photonics, blue is anything from 445 through to 465, 470, and that's mainly known as royal blue. What we actually produce in our device is known as 415. Now, in the industry, it's known as blue, but it's actually photonically known as violet, and that's actually the wavelength with the most clinical data to support it. It's referred to as blue because of years gone by with the way that different technologies have come to market. Now, the difference between, say, 415 and 470 is all to do with the overall optical power that's being produced at that particular wavelength. A 470 is very typical of an out-of-spec LED that's been designed for a varying application. Blue LEDs are anything between 445 and 465. We're actually developed as an ongoing development towards white light technology for general lighting. So anything like LED lights you get in your home settings, commercial settings. Because those LEDs are freely available, manufacturers then take those LEDs, claim that they are then blue, and then put them into an LED mask and claim that they can get the same results. Now, because of the wavelength at 470, what's known as the full width half max. So if you ever measure the light, you get like a waveform. The waveform's very broad, typically around that wavelength. So you end up getting the what's known as the short wavelength boundary of that waveform becoming shorter down the visible spectrum and then in towards the violet range. So you get a small proportion of the light that's actually activating the stimulus around the 415 absorption point in the skin cells. In comparison to our 415 on our LEDs, we're focusing all of our energy into that particular wavelength. And by doing so, you're actually stimulating the skin cell at a much higher energy point, so you're going to get a much quicker, much better result around that wavelength. You really need to do some research around this in terms of wavelengths. A go-to place for anybody who wants to look into the varying wavelengths of blue. Take a look at PubMed. There's plenty of articles on there, researches that shows the difference between varying wavelengths. And you will find yourself that the most common wavelength used in LED phototherapy is 415.
Yeah, and we've used 4 and 5 right from the very beginning across all the devices, and as we said at the beginning, you know, wavelength is the most important parameter because that can make or break the results that you get. So, you know, we've seen some fantastic results with acne, sort of more problematic skin breakouts, and yeah, because we're using the right wavelength.
I think it's also important to recognise that just because two LED devices side by side claim to have, say, the same wavelength, doesn't make them the same either. You need to dig down a little bit further into the technology, and really for that, if you're not photonically of that mindset, really go with a trusted brand and you won't go wrong. What we've done in the background with our research is we've actually taken what would be a broad emission, narrowed it. We then generate the optical power, which gives a high peak emission in terms of optical power. And if you relate that from side by side and you were to overlay the 2 points of data, you'd find that a typical blue LED around 415 nanometers would actually be very broad. So it has a lower peak height in terms of peak emission. The difference is that you've got energy being emitted on that device in an area that's not being targeted towards the skin cell. So you're producing light, which isn't being used effectively for the skin condition. With what we've done our own custom LED that's specific to our technology range that isn't available anywhere else on the market. That by doing that, we've narrowed that emission, increased the peak height, so we get the same optical power as a normal 415 LED, but it's very targeted, which is why we get the results we do.
So yeah. Fantastic. There was a question that just popped up there about the distance. So what's the sort of optimal distance of the device to the target area, to the area that we're treating?
So this varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. Now on our devices, we claim not to be any closer to the device than 2.5 centimeters if you're doing the face. By doing this, you're allowing for what's known as angles of convergence. So every LED across the device is emitting light. It's got a specific viewing angle to the LED where the light's being emitted. You want the light to overlap across one another across the area of the array. If you get too close, you kind of go past the optimum distribution point of light, and you actually end up with spotting. So this is one of the downfalls of LED masks, is that they look very uniform to the face and so forth, but if you actually then put it onto the application area of the face and you put it too close, you actually get focused LED hotspots on the skin. You're not getting evenly distributed light. To give that as an example, if you were to take say a torch and you lit a torch on the tabletop, if you take it very close to the skin, you've got a very intense focus point of light on the surface of the table, and as you back that torch away from the table, the light starts to distribute over a larger area. So your optical power per centimeter squared reduces because your area is increased, but you're actually getting a better, more uniform distribution of light. So if you take multiple torches, you then cover a larger area, more uniform, and it comes down to the base power of the device. So really on that, go with a trusted brand, go with the brand that claims the right numbers and how it's being used in a real world application. There's a lot of misdirection in the marketplace where you can buy devices that claim high optical powers based on measuring right in front of the LED, but that's not actually how you use it, and that's not how the light's actually being distributed across the application area.
No, yeah, and I think on the other side is if it's too far away, then obviously you're going to lose the concentration, like you said with the torch analogy. So the optimum, we always say is maybe as a measurement, just put your hand sort of a hand width away, but exactly. It can depend on also on the client's comfort with the treatment as well. So. Okay. Next question: can I use the Flex daily? So with the lower power of the device. I don't know if you want to answer.
Yeah. So the Flex really is the entry level device for Dermalux. So it's a much lower optical power than what you would get off, say, the Compatch, the Triwave, or the Triwave MD. By having it as lower power, it's more of an add-on to a treatment than you would do as an actual standalone. You can do standalone treatments with it, but we always recommend to use the Flex as an add-on to other treatments. And because of that, 10, 15, 20 minutes with the device is an add-on to help basically with reducing redness after treatment.
So as a post-treatment protocol, absolutely.
Yeah,
but yeah, so daily use, absolutely.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say, or we would say, is that if you're treating a more problematic, irritated, sensitized skin condition, so this could be acne, your redness, your rosacea, so try and leave a day in between. Obviously, the light or the treatment is actually stimulating a cellular response, so we need to allow for the cells to be activated and to trigger that, or to process that light energy and work before going into the next treatment. But yeah, daily for normal rejuvenation, then daily use is absolutely fine. Okay, next question. What aftercare should be done with the light therapy treatment? So typically, it depends. So if you're doing a standalone, obviously good preparation of the skin is important. Post-treatment, just apply regular products. We say you can apply serums onto the skin during the light, as long as they haven't got high concentration sort of actives in there. But post-treatment, you can just follow with normal products, sort of out of your skincare line. SPF, of course, is good practice, but obviously if you're doing that during sort of daylight hours as well. So it also depends on if you're combining that treatment or the LED treatment with another treatment. So again, just look at the protocol for the other treatment. It could be laser, skin needling, so just see what they would recommend. The light can just be really combined with any treatment. I don't think there's anything that we found that you couldn't combine it with. So but yeah, there's nothing specific that we would that we recommend sort of a post-treatment. Okay, next question. We've had lots today. Can LED be used immediately after skin peels? So yes, again, all of our protocols in the protocol manual. So yeah, you can use them immediately after. The only thing we would say is if you're using a peel that isn't neutralized. So typically a lot of peels have some kind of neutralization, whether that's through a product or through a neutralizer through water. But if it's a more advanced peel and you're not neutralizing it, just be a little bit careful. They tend to self-neutralize quite quickly, but in this case, if it was something like a TCA, maybe just wait then until the days following before applying the light, just to be on the safe side, in case any of the ingredients left in the skin are still activated by the light. Yeah, but usually that's fine. And then obviously, sort of going on from that, it's important to use the light to help sort of speed through that healing process and enhance the results. So you're minimizing any downtime, and then you're helping just, to make sure that skin that's coming through underneath is strong and healthy. Okay, next question. I have a client wanting to use LED for face and body. Can I treat both areas in the same day?
Okay,
that's a good question.
Yeah, it is. So I'll take that one. Really, you can treat both areas in the same day. The rules around LED treatments, when a manufacturer generates an LED product, we have to do what's known as a clinical evaluation report, so CER. And in this, we have to provide all our clinical studies and evaluations of how clients have reacted with the light in terms of have we seen any evidence to suggest that skin conditions have improved, and then you represent your data. And that gets audited by your notified body and the likes of the MHRA, who approve it to state that a device is capable of relieving or treating a particular medical condition. There are also guidelines that state how you are to use that device and how many times you're to use that device. Now, in all of our protocols, we actually state that if you're, say, treating acne, we advise that you only treat a problem area of acne in line with the protocol manual. So if you look at your device, or if you're new to the device, just follow the guidelines, and that's how you should proceed. Say, for example, a client who's got acne on the face and acne on the chest, you can treat the two different areas on the same day. You just can't treat the same problem area twice in a day. And the problem is you can overexpose the skin to too much optical power.
Mm-hmm. We did have a question actually the other day, which was quite interesting. And I think this also came from a confusion, which is another question we've got in a second, about the different protocols and any sort of effect of delivering the lights all at the same time would have on the efficacy of the treatment. So somebody said to me, you know, I do rejuvenation like in one time in the morning, and then I might do my acne protocol later on in the day, but they're treating the same area. Yeah. So it's not necessary to do that with ours anyway, because of how the device, because of how the technology is delivered. So actually, we can just answer that now. So the question was, if we use all of the lights combined, so all of the LEDs are on at the same time, all the wavelengths, are they less effective than using them individually?
On our device, no. So there are devices out there that basically take a couple of LED face masks that we've seen recently. They will have 2, 3, 4 colors involved in the mask. Now, the way that it works, say for example, the ones that are battery operated, typically on a battery operated device, the ones that we've seen, they will turn on a particular color and they'll run up to a certain amount of optical power. If they then turn on 2 colors at the same time, if they've been running those LEDs at full power at the maximum capacity that the batteries can deliver, the only choice they have on the circuit is then to downrate the red LEDs, for example, and then turn on the other circuit, and of which they've split the power across the 2 LEDs. So you can actually have a poorer treatment, if you will, because yes, you've had 2 colors basically giving you the treatment, but you've actually reduced the overall optical power of the color being emitted. Now, in other scenarios where they're mains power based, the circuit will turn on the 2nd or the 3rd LED. It all comes down to the actual physical form of how the device has been produced at that point. Now, the one thing we do different on our device compared to other manufacturers is that each of our colors is a single LED. So if we turn that LED on the device during the treatment, that LED is on, and the power is, the electrical power to the LED doesn't differ at all over the course of the treatment. With some of the other devices on the market where you see that the single LED actually has 2, 3, or 4 chips inside of it, what can happen is say for example, you've got your red LEDs on, and then you turn the blue LED on at the same time inside of the same LED. While they may not have changed the overall current going to the red LED, the LED itself starts to run a lot hotter. And because it runs hotter, the overall optical power performance reduces on the red LED. So in terms of a like-for-like comparison on that, just because you've applied the blue doesn't mean that basically you're going to get the best treatment, because actually it's running so much hotter that the overall optimum performance they can produce with LED reduces, because you've got so much waste energy being converted to heat. So even though you're able to turn those colors on at the same time, you're not going to get the best treatment you possibly could by actually having broken those colors out across other LEDs. You can use 1, 2, or 3 colors at the same time, and because they all penetrate to different depths in the skin and they all do a slightly different function to one another, they don't almost mix in space and overlap and become something else.
They're very complementary.
Yeah, exactly. It's the combination of light changing colors. If you turn the red and the blue on, all of a sudden becomes like this pink hue. That's just about how we perceive light through our eye. So basically the light is mixing and we see it as pink. The skin cells still receive it as the 2 separate wavelengths, and they use it separately at the same time. And there is the added bonus that if you are stimulating skin cells with the 2 different wavelengths, that they're actually working in process with one another to actually get a better treatment than you would do by isolating one plus then another there afterwards.
Yeah, because acne is a really good example of that. So where you've got, so obviously acne is about bacteria in the skin, but typically it's an inflammatory condition. There's often a lot of redness, irritation there, so you want to deal with that, and there can be much deeper inflammation, so we can deal with that with the infrared. Then obviously we want to help with any potential scarring, so then we add the red in. So that's why we have obviously targeted protocols for different severities of indication. So it could be like within pigmentation, we've got 2 different protocols. Within acne, we've got 2 different protocols, and we can, then that can obviously be tailored without compromising the overall energy output of the device. You're just delivering more optical power, aren't you, with all 3 lights, all 3 wavelengths on together.
There is also a middle ground on that, where there are devices on the market where they will actually pulse the LED. Now, some devices you can see the LEDs physically changing, so they look like they're increasing and decreasing in power over the course of the treatment. Excuse me. Other devices use pulse width modulation, so they're actually pulsing the LED at a particular rate that the eye doesn't see that they're actually being pulsed, but the skin does. And what's happening there is that they're trying to basically put as much optical power out in, say, a fraction of a second, and then they turn the LED off, and then they turn it back on again for a fraction of a second. So over the course of a treatment time, you have an average stimulus to the skin cell in terms of optical power. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is that, one, they talk about how the fact that basically by overstimulating the skin cell, you get more power per fraction of a second and you get a better result. A lot of it's to do with basically actually trying to get the heat down on the device and actually get a more uniform treatment. So they're trying to stabilize the LED during the treatment process.
Yeah, so it's, and that's, we're looking for over time that, and that's the nice thing with our devices because of how they're programmed. So you're getting the same treatment on day one as you are, sort of many years down the line. And there's a lot more technology that goes on behind that as well. Okay. So if we, next question, will skin condition, this is in particular to acne, worsen before improving during the course of Dermalux? So I think with treating any condition, I think diagnosis or, the consultation process, understanding what causes that condition is really important because, particularly with acne, there are so many different reasons for that condition to, to present. So it could be hormonal, it can be stress, it can be diet, it can be lifestyle, it can be poor product. So understanding what causes it will really help in terms of getting the best outcome. It shouldn't be worse. Now with blue light, the mechanism of blue light is just literally that it's destroying the bacteria. So it's a simple destruction mechanism. With red light and the infrared, it is more stimulating, and sometimes because we're increasing cell turnover, if there is anything under the skin, impurities, and we're speeding up that cellular turnover, potentially it might sort of bring that out, but obviously we want to do that to, to speed up the cell function. But no, it shouldn't become worse. I think if there is anything that's where a condition is sort of not improving at the rate that we would have expected, then it's sort of going back to, is there anything else that maybe we've missed, anything underlying, anything internal? So. Final question, unless we've had any more in, any age restrictions with the device? So, from our side, no age restrictions, obviously, looking in a clinical setting, but, we would just recommend to check with your insurance. So anything, if you're treating sort of children, teenagers, parental consent is very important. Obviously, we've got the consultation forms, but just check on your insurance. That's the most important, yeah.
So,
are there any other
we have had some questions come in on the chat just now while we've been talking. So I'll pick out a couple. So Zoe's basically asked, how do you opt for red only on the device? So all the devices, you can choose how to run the device. So you can choose whether to use our standard treatment protocols that we've got into the software, or whether you actually want to do your own custom option. So on the Flex, for example, when you turn the controller on, you've got a simple functionality of either choosing red, blue, or infrared. You just simply press the buttons. They light up to say that they've been activated. You can choose 1, 2, or 3 colors, and you press go, and you start to see the timer counting down in minutes. On the Compact and the Tri-Wave, there is a custom mode in the software, and again, you can go through and select each of the colors, and you can choose how long you want to run those colors for. Now, the great piece of the Tri-Wave MD is that you actually have greater customizable options in the software where you can choose whether you want 1, 2, or 3 colors on, how long you want each of those colors to be on for, and they don't all have to start from the starting point. They can be chosen to offset. So for example, if you wanted red on for 5 minutes and then you wanted blue and infrared to come on thereafter, what you'd actually be able to do is set that up, and you can get them to turn off partway through the treatment. And the maximum treatment time for the MD is 30 minutes with that option. So it all depends on what type of device you've got, but in short, yes, you can do single colors.
There's a couple of questions here that are quite interesting about using the Flex on the body. So using it to treat muscular pains and injuries, and also scarring. So just as a point, when using the Flex on the body, anywhere on the body, so the protocol, and it's written on the chart, is that we reduce the treatment time. So because we're delivering the light energy closer to the target, you get a higher concentration of light delivery into the skin. So we want to reduce the treatment time. So it's safe to apply the device directly onto the target area. So whether it's on the back, on the body, wherever those aches and pains are. But just remember to, and this is with any of the wavelengths or any of the protocols, just to reduce the time to around 15-20 minutes. If you're using all the 3 wavelengths together, I'd recommend to start around 15 minutes, but if you're just using a single wavelength or dual wavelength, then 20 minutes will be fine.
So there's a good question coming from Vicky. So she's asked the question saying that she's interested in the Dermalux Flex for a small home treatment room. Will it achieve the same results as the larger models? In short, you've effectively got 4 models, and there's 3 optical power options across the models. Now, the Flex is the lowest optical power device that we have. The overall treatment time is 30 minutes on this device. To give you that as a comparison, your next stage up is either the compact or the Triwave. Now, that's a halfway power point between the Triwave MD, the largest device we sell. And in it, that's only a 20-minute cycle. And then as you move up to the MD, the maximum amount of power. So if you turn all three LEDs on for a 20-minute cycle, it's 240 joules per centimetre square collectively over a 20-minute period. Whereas if you had all 3 colours on the Flex, you're only at 40 joules per centimetre square collectively over a 30-minute period. So you can see the big difference in the overall power being emitted on the device. Now, in terms of results, you will get results with the Flex. You see fantastic results, and you can see this all over social media about the success that varying clinics are having with that device. The difference is basically about the overall stimulus, so per second. So how much energy are you delivering from the device to the skin cells per second? The greater the volume of energy, the larger the reaction you're going to see there and then. There's a bit of a rumour mill, if you will, across the LED market where they say, well, I'll just use the Flex for longer, so why don't I use it for an hour or an hour and a half? It's not about collective energy over time to try and equal the total power of, say, the Triwave MD. It's all about the energy you're delivering per second. So it's the difference between, it's a silly analogy, but it's the difference between, say, a skin cell vibrating like this or a skin cell vibrating like this per second. You've got to drive that energy in there to see that form of reaction. So yes, you will see the results with the Flex. No, you won't see the results with the Flex that you would get with the Triwave MD.
And that's why we can use the Flex also for daily use,
yeah.
Because of the power. So,
exactly.
But like I said, I think across all of the devices, I think it's because the wavelengths that we're using are very targeted to those conditions. So it's just about, from a commercial point of view, time, of course, is money as well. So if we can do shorter treatment times, then of course that's better, and we're getting faster results. So, but like we said at the beginning, the Flex is very much geared towards the combination.
See, it's from a clinic perspective, and Louise might kill me for saying this, but the Flex was actually brought to market as a low risk capital option for clinics trying to go into LED. Now, through my own frustration, the Flex was brought to market because the LED market was being kind of hindered by cheap LED masks coming onto the market from various manufacturers overseas. And then customers then saying to us, well, LED doesn't work. And the problem is that LED does work if you're buying the right device that's actually had, for example, we spent millions across our devices in research and development to actually develop the products that we have. And really, you end up with these other LED devices where it's almost like a one-hit wonder that people will buy it, they'll sell it, and they say it does X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't. And then it's then hindered you as a business, and then it creates a bad name for LED phototherapy itself.
Yeah.
For me, really, it's about, if you're buying the Flex, you're buying something to try and establish something in your business that's going to use LED. And I promise you that basically from the moment you start using it, you're going to see these results. Your clients will see these results. And the amount of clients that have actually bought Flex as a low risk option to start off, and then have actually then bought up through the range with us because they've seen the results. The payback on it is fantastic. And
absolutely. And there's lots of options then going forward.
Yeah.
A couple more treatment questions. Can we use it to treat cystic acne? Yes, so we can treat all grades of acne. So the nice thing with the cystic acne, where you've got obviously much deeper inflammation, we've got the blue light to kill the bacteria, but then it's your near infrared wavelength that will target much deeper to reduce that inflammation. So we'd start on more of the severe acne program.
So this is an interesting one. There's a message coming from Paul and Julie, just saying, what is the difference between your medical device to other models you sell? Now, we have our medical device, which is known as the Triwave MD, which is the best of the best and the ultimate device, like the Ferrari in the market, if you will.
Rolls-Royce.
Exactly, the Rolls-Royce, there we go, sorry, British. But from that, effectively, the thing that makes us different about our medical device is what you can do with it. Now, typically, medical devices in LED phototherapy will claim the likes of acne, wound healing, muscle pain. We are the only company that claims to treat psoriasis using LED phototherapy, and that's because of the volume of optical power that we produce on the device, or from the device, sorry, and then using application. The results that we've had with that are fantastic. And the stage further that we've actually done, obviously the clinical evidence in the CR I spoke about before, PDT. So you'll find it very rare on LED devices that there's many companies out there claiming to be able to treat PDT options with their LED devices, and that's all because they've not been able to prove clinically and physically on their device that they can produce the volume of light and have the control around that for the requirements of the pharmaceutical drug that they're using with the PDT option. To give you the understanding on that, on the PDT, typical pharmaceutical companies will state that with PDT serums, you either need to use particular wavelengths of light and have a particular dosage of optical power being used on the device. We can choose what wavelength of light based on, saying, for example, either red light or blue light PDT, and the overall time. So some manufacturers state how much time you need to use to be able to use the full amount of the serum of the PDT, or others actually claim the overall optical power. We've done all that hard work for you. So you're no longer tied to a particular brand of serum to use and the device that they state that you have to use. Now you can basically go out with our device and use any PDT serum in combination with our device, giving you the flexibility to treat other options.
There was just a question that I saw about pigmentation. So just to avoid any confusion about pigmentation, because we have got two different pigmentation protocols. So depending, this goes back to what we were just saying about the diagnosis is really important. So so understanding what is the root cause of that pigmentation. Is it sun damage, environmental damage, photo damage, or is it hormonal? Is it post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation? Is it phototoxic? Is it medication? And so we've got the protocols for the sun damage, the environmental damage is the red and the infrared combined together. But with the phototoxic, the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, for example, then we just recommend the red. So as we just discussed in the webinar, for the reasons of targeting at a much deeper level. So then using it post-treatment as well. So if you're post-treating on a darker skin, just follow the red light protocol, and then obviously you can go back to the normal protocol later.
So there's a question in from a lady called Molly Morris Walsh, and in that she's asking, what is the major difference between a tri-wave and a compact? Now, this is an interesting one. Now, the optical power per centimetre square across both those devices is exactly the same. The difference is the overall canopy size. Now, the compact has a 5 LED panel option. The tri-wave has an 8 LED panel option. Now, obviously, it's the size of the head and the aperture size. The other difference is basically both products were brought to the market to treat exactly the same conditions, but the overall how you use it physically is completely different. Now the tri-wave, you can only use that with a treatment couch. You lay the patient down, you treat either the face or the body, depending on the treatment head. With the compact, you have the flexibility of using both the treatment couch and being in a seated position. Now, if you have a look online, there's a lot of customers now starting to do like these express facials, or like I think we call it like almost like a walking on the street, sit down in a comfy chair, and you have the compact addressing your face on. And the idea with that is basically it gives you the flexibility that if your treatment bed in your treatment room and you're in a position where you've got an area where you can move the patient from the bed to a seated position, you've got the ability to make more revenue, say, per hour, by actually being able to move customers around during this experience and take them from treatment couch to seat and actually put them through the LED. So they can still get the same end results with the treatment, but you're given the flexibility of actually being able to free up your bed for your next patient, basically. The nice thing as well with the LED systems we sell is that with them being on a timed system, you can actually walk away from the patient and not have to stay with the patient for every second that they're actually going through this treatment program.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap up in a second, but just a couple more questions about treating darker skins. So, which can be a challenge. Well, treating all skin types can be challenging depending on the indication. But can acne be treated on dark skin? This is from Isabel Mandanego. Yes, absolutely. So the LED, so why it's very different to things like laser, where obviously we have to be very careful on the device and the energy that's being delivered. But with low level light energy, yes, it's one of the unique sort of point about is the fact that we can use it on all skin types very safely, but we can be very targeted on the indication. So with our protocol, we say just follow the normal treatment time, so you don't necessarily have to vary the treatment time. But I think every person is individual and everybody will respond in different ways. So I think it's just working with that client. If they need more treatment, we have a set number of treatments that we recommend, but obviously, yes, that can vary from person to person and from indication. So severity, client's lifestyle, what else they're doing, what they're using on the skin, and there can be a number of factors that we have to take into consideration as well. And the timings, yes, so the timings, as I said, they would be the same across all skin types.
Okay, well, I think we're running out of time now. I think we've taken up enough of everybody's time. We've obviously got a lot more questions that have come in on the chat forum. So what we'll do is we'll take those questions away from this. We'll contact you separately because we've got all your contact details. And we'll make sure that basically everyone who's been involved in this webinar gets the same information shared.
Yes, absolutely. We'll do a follow-up email as well. And obviously, if there was any questions, if you didn't get the chance to put the questions forward and you want to, then yeah, we're here directly. So you can either you can contact us on the info@Dermalux LED address, or you can call us directly.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you for joining us today. I hope it's been informative and answered some questions. If you do have any other questions, please either email us or give us a call, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. And we'll be back with the next webinar very shortly. That's it. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Thank you. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.